my grieving days. In the ground is where you'll stay. Oh, rest in peace, that sneering voice. Time erases what fear destroys. Yes, time erases what fear destroys. Woo. We were gonna be the loudest in the land.
Can I talk? Ooh. Colby, you can hear me? Yeah. Hopefully everybody online can hear me. All right, cool. We're going to get started. Thanks for coming tonight. This is our third talk, I guess. So we started off with weather with Corey and terrain with Ben, and now we're going to do snowpack, and then just a little pitch for you to show up next week and the following week. Accidents are next Thursday, and then, Brandon Everett is going to, he's got a flying helicopter for everyone. He'll be buzzing around with his mask, his little kid. So he said I got a bigger one this year. So who knows? He might. Yeah, watch yourself. Yeah, so he'll be doing rescue, and then that will kind of end the speaker series. So thanks for coming, and we'll kind of get started. My name's Nichole. Work with Ogden Avalanche and Corey and the team, and then also part of Powder Mountain Snow Safety Team. Thanks for all my workers that showed up today after working all day. I appreciate the support and everything. So we'll jump into snowpack. Please shout out if you have any questions or anything like that. But yeah, we'll roll into it. So a snowpack, we're gonna go over formation of a snowpack, how it gets all formed, factors that influence it, the metamorphism that happens over the period after it has fallen. And then we'll touch on some avalanche types and problems, and then red flags that you need to watch out for. So, formation. How are snowpacks formed? No. What? I didn't think anyone would guess it. That's correct. Snow, our main ingredient, right? So, if we don't get this, we don't get a snowpack. Factors that influence snowpack. So we have tons of other things after the snow has fallen on the ground. Winds. If anybody has been in the mountains the last 2 to 2.5 days, you have experienced winds at pretty high rates. Temperatures affect snowpack, so either cold or warm, rapid changes, anything like that. Rain, unfortunately, can be good or bad, probably typically bad and then good. Sun as well, which kind of helps with the temperatures, but you'll notice sometimes you can be up and it's 18 degrees temperatures, but all your solars are really damp and stuff like that, so the sun will really affect that kind of stuff. I also put in here high and low air moisture contents due to relating to RH, and that's we'll go over something, but RHs will create something in the snowpack that is really bad, or it could be good as well. And then obviously new snow, so more snow could be a problem. So first off, we have wind. This is, Haley's here actually right now. This is, a week and a half ago on one of our routes. We had 50-mile-an-hour sustained winds trying to go out and do control work, and it was pretty gnarly. Corey right here, I think this picture was shown maybe last week or the week before, but you can see all the wind effect on the snow. So this will create a different snow surface for us when our next snow falls. It can also, all this stuff is somewhere else now, right? Maybe wind loaded somewhere else. So all this snow that was there, I don't like that I can't turn. But then they can't hear me. Okay. Yeah, typically that's not a problem, right? I can't. Maybe the whole thing? I asked for a Bluetooth one and they just rolled their eyes at me. It's a real thing, though. Okay, cool. So moving on. Temperatures. So warm and or cold. Everyone has seen this happen, right? You go out, you get a powder day one day, you go out the next morning, and it's just manky and nasty, or even from morning to afternoon. So a snowpack could be blower, and then if we get warm temps, it just becomes heavy and sticky and manky, and you need your skin wax, and you're falling into the ground, and it's not all that fun, really. Especially in new snow, that could be a problem. And then there's the other side of it, right? So this is actually a picture from Snowbird, the classic kind of 7% champagne snow that the Wasatch is known for. Cold temperatures affect snow. This is when we get our beautiful blower days, and there's lots of smiles. Rain, we see increasingly every year more and more rain in the northern Wasatch, the central Wasatch, anywhere around here. This picture right here shows, does anybody know what those are called? You snow safety people should know what those are called. Runnels. Those are rain runnels. Shout it out. Come on, Kim. Yeah, those are rain runnels. So that's rain that has fallen, landed on top of the snow surface, and it turns into like little gutters, right? So it's not completely percolating through the snowpack. So rain is a factor. This was a picture from last season. If anyone got the pleasure of enjoying the freezing rainstorm that I think only occurred at Powder Mountain and the Whisper Ridge operational terrain, if you didn't, you sure missed out. Snow recrystallized. It grew, so like we grow an inch without getting any snow, which is kind of cool. It's basically just a fancy name for frost, though, or simply the winter equivalent of really cool. It also occurs during clear, but it needs humid conditions, so it needs a lot of moisture for it to happen, and then calm conditions. If it's too windy, it can't land on anything, okay? So it needs kind of just, I looked at it, I think the optimal wind speed is actually like 3 miles an hour is what it needs. But I thought that was getting a little too heady. So calm conditions, basically, is when we need to get, is what promotes surface war. So the places you're going to find it, snow in the shade or at night, radiations, it radiates tremendous amounts of heat. And the snow surface becomes very, very cold, and the water vapor from the warmer, humid air above will condense onto the snow surface. Does that make sense? It's kind of like a mouthful, but that's as small as I could get it. So, what are you squinting at? See, like snowflakes that kind of just look fuzzy. Those are being rimed up in the atmosphere before they're falling, right? So that's kind of what that looks like. Is there any questions on any of that stuff? I know that I'm covering it. Oh, we got a question. Nope. Cancel that. Hold that. We can chat after the talk if you need to. All right. Copy. All right. Avalanche types. We got 9 avalanche types. There's loose dry or dry loose. And the reason I say that is because I put it loose dry on one slide, and I'm looking at my next slide, and it says dry loose. Storm slab, wind slab, persistent slab, deep persistent slab, loose wet, a wet slab, cornice fall, or a glide. And don't worry, I'm going to go over all of them so you can recognize them when you're out there, right? Or at least try. We classify them wrong a lot. So dry loose. This is what a dry loose looks like. So you're typically going to see like a point release with a fan in the new snow that has fallen. And it's dry. It's really, really dry. You can ski through it and not notice it. So that's what a dry loose is. Storm slab. So storm slab's going to have a little more of it's like going to have like a little more of a defined characteristic to it. So you're going to have a crown to a storm slab. Both of those are storm slabs, but it's still going to be like really soft snow, if that makes sense, right? So that's going to come from like either a little bit of wind or a density difference in like a snow that's going to form a storm slab. I can't go into like all the deep details because I don't want to be up here all night. But yeah, so a storm slab is going to have like a little more of a crown. It's going to have a slabby-like feature to it. So you're going to see some cracking maybe, some like chunks that eventually just disintegrate, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, then you're going to have to read about it more. Wind slabs. This is something we dealt with all day today. Wind slabs are going to come in a couple formations. So you're going to have a hard slab or you're going to have a soft slab. And that's what we're sitting at. We have a deep persistent slab. So that's our depth where on the ground. We also have multiple persistent slabs, which are our near surface facets and our buried surface or layers. So that's where, so those aren't going away for a long time. They can't heal again. So that's where, so those aren't going away for a long time. They can't heal again unless they slide, basically. So they need something more weight to slide. Then the bum deal is you're typically just starting over. So once you form this, especially this deep persistent problem, you're done. So all this means is the location of it. So you can see in this path right here, this slid to the ground, right? You can see the dirt and everything in it. That's a deep persistent slab. This was probably, once again, I don't know unless I identified it, but that's probably, that could be a huge wind slab as well. But you could think of where those guys are measuring and stuff. Maybe there was like a really weak layer right there that lingered and lingered and lingered and lingered until it got enough weight or a trigger to slide. Those things stay. We just feel like we're just beating a dead animal in our briefings when we're like, oh, and we still have the persistent layer there. Oh, and we still have the persistent layer there. It's just there all the time, and you can become very mute to someone talking about a persistent weak layer, and you really need to not be that way. Somehow you got to figure out a way to like let that persistent weak layer live with you on every single run you take, because if not, it's going to get you. And they're typically catastrophic. So a wet loose, this is a little bit of a combo. I kind of didn't notice it until the end. It's a little bit of a glide and a wet loose, but I was too busy to change it. So a wet loose is kind of like a dry loose, right? In that it's like softer looking snow. It doesn't have all the big blocky chunks to it, but it's wet, right? It's like slushy and heavy, and it moves slower typically. That's a good wet loose right there. That also came out to the ground. That probably, to be honest, was like off of a rain or something is probably what happened. So the water percolated all the way down to the bottom of the ground, and then it released at the ground. But you can see how it's really chunky and wet. It looks like when the plow driver goes past your house, you know, and leaves a bunch of crap on your driveway. That's kind of what a wet loose is going to be like. And it's going to set up really fast probably too. Then you have a wet slab. So now all you're taking is the wet loose properties, everything we just talked about, taking the slab properties in the hard slab or the wind slab and kind of put those together. So that's going to pull out as like one cohesive unit. And way up in here, you can see this huge crown, right? So this thing started probably as like one big slab wet. And then eventually it all disseminated all over the place. But you'd probably come in here and find some pretty big chunks all over the place in this wet slab. In a terrain like probably really, really big. We don't see a lot of massive wet slabs, at least in this area. We don't. I could be wrong, but I'm probably fishing by the time wet slabs are coming out, so I don't really deal with them that much. So those are both pictures of wet slabs right there. You can see this one has a crown as well. This thing just shifted on me. But you can see this thing has a crown as well. So that's kind of showing that slab property instead of just like a point release and fanning out. Cornice Fall. We're up next to a cornice fall. I only found one good picture / ran out of time to find more good pictures. So that's a cornice fall right there. So a cornice fall is kind of a hard thing to classify as like an avalanche because it's typically probably going to create a different avalanche, if that makes sense. So this cornice fall probably created a hard slab. Does that make sense? So a big chunk of this thing fell off in here, landed on this snow and triggered it and caused like a hard slab. But there is a classification for a cornice fall. Glides. We don't see a lot of glides. Well, we see a few glides, actually. Yeah, we do see a few glides up in the Ben Lomond area. Those big head walls and stuff like that will get glides. Hells. Yeah, Hells has glides. So this is what's probably going to happen probably with like rain again or in the spring. That's another picture of a glide. So it's going to go down and it's going to glide. That's about it. Well, sometimes like they don't even go very far, you know. Sometimes they pull out a wet loose or a wet slab. Yes, question, yes. Yeah, you're gonna see the dirt in there, or like really close, right? Like there may be still some patches of snow, but it's this definitive thing that the snowpack has gotten really heavy, and there's a tension thing, and it finally breaks all the way to the ground. Does that make sense? It's sliding on the summer surface. In case you didn't hear that. I know, because I have the mic and he doesn't, so. Cool, is there any questions on the Avalanche types? Awesome, well, I'll give you some problems then. Some Avalanche problems, I'll throw this at you. Corey told me to put this in. So this is the way the UAC runs. Typically, most of us talk in the Avalanche types, but I thought I would mention it because when you look at the forecast in the morning, the list of them is going to maybe be just slightly different, and there's less. So the UAC runs with new snow, wind-drifted snow, persistent weak layer, wet snow, gliding snow, or normal caution, which isn't really an avalanche problem. I can't answer that question. I don't know what normal caution is. Just be cautious. When it says normal caution, just be cautious. Normally, though, yeah, don't do it strangely. Just normally be. Sorry, Drew, if you're watching this. I'm not trying to. No, I'm not trying to be rude. Normal caution is very vague, though, right? That's kind of just like, what does that really mean? But you're going to see that like at low dangers, right? When we have a good snowpack, we haven't seen any snow or winds for a long time, and you just need to have the idea that something could happen, but it's probably unlikely. And you need to have normal caution. Normal caution. Yeah, but these guys over here, they're like sucking in my attention a little bit. Red flags. Red flags are really, really, really good way to keep yourself safe. I think I read an article the other day that said that 4% of avalanche accidents are actually accidents. So that's like a really limited amount, right? So a lot of people had a lot of things that showed them that there was problems, right? And it could even be like I don't do videos after the B Street speaker series. So that could be a red flag that I'm like maybe dehydrated from the night before. But in all honesty, there are a lot of ways that you can like stop yourself if you're out touring or even skiing at the ski resort and you don't feel comfortable with something. We've had a lot of, it's made for interesting conditions. But new snow, which typically is 1 inch of snow water equivalent, so that's how much water is in the snow, or 12 inches of snow is something that you should really, really step back from and start using different travel procedures, skiing different kind of slope angles, stuff like that. Wind, heavy winds. We've had like somewhere in the sustained upper 20s to low 30s for the last 2.5 days. Game today. It was kind of hot and heavy up there today. Rapid heat. So anytime we're going to see this in the spring, right? When it's kind of still cold at night, it's in the sudden by 2 o'clock, it's 40 degrees, right? So our snow is going to go through a massive change really fast. Get your good corn snicle in the morning and then go on a bike ride in the afternoon. Collapsing, cracking, or woofing. If someone says they don't know what woofing is, then they've never heard it. Because when you hear it, there's no doubt what it is. And when you drop 2 or 3 inches on the snow surface and shooting cracks come everywhere, those are pretty big red flags. You need to get off of steep terrain. And then the persistent weak layer. So we just have like a red flag just sitting right here in this room right now. We have a huge glaring red flag because we have persistent weak layers everywhere in our snowpack. So that should already be telling you that it's not a ski it if it's white kind of season, right? It's a stand down, step back, low angle love kind of thing, probably for the rest of the season. Once again, unless we get snow or everything melts away. And then you can't ski anyways, you just go mountain biking, right? And then recent avalanches, right? This is a big one. This is probably your number one. I probably should have put it at the top. What's the biggest sign of avalanches? Recent avalanches, right? So don't like make it hard or science-y or wonder what it is, if you see an avalanche, there's obviously instabilities. Rather it's natural skier triggered or even explosives triggered. You should be really thinking about it. It's just a big bang. That's 5 people maybe dropping a slope. It's not all that much, in all honesty. So anytime you see a recent avalanche, you should be stepping back from that elevation, that aspect, that slope angle, anything like that. That's all I have. Is there any questions? Yes, I knew it. Russell, give it to me. You bet, my friend. Well, what you should do is you should get on your Instagram account and you should follow Ogden Avalanche. And it's on YouTube, but I don't know how to get to that. Oh, just go to Ogden Avalanche on YouTube. I can't believe I'm the social media person because I don't even know how to get onto that stuff. Yeah, follow all that kind of stuff, and you can find any of that. There's also blogs. There's more talks. We're doing a fireside unofficially. I don't know where Corey is, on Tuesday maybe. It might be like at Corey's bonfire or something. We'll just like hold a camera out. No, we're going to try to... Yeah, bring your snowmobiles, bring your farm animals. I'm just kidding. I'm just totally kidding. No, we're going to try to do something on like a state of the snowpack and an update of kind of basically since the snow hit the ground to where we're at right now and everything going on, so you have like a better understanding. It's really easy for me to just throw stuff at you, and if you're not in it every day, it's kind of hard to comprehend. But yeah, Russell, all that stuff is on the World Wide Web, social media style. You're there. You're linked in. Love it. Awesome. Is there any other questions on Snowpack? You have a half a beer to ask me a question, because once I start my second, yeah, I'm gone. Okay. Thanks for showing up, guys.